Hello, Rebecca.
Hello.
How's it going?
How's it going?
Welcome to Hardy Party of Five and a Half.
We look a little different today.
Yeah, we do. We're like bobblehead tiki heads. Why are we like this, Rebecca?
We had such an amazing guest today for you on Hardy Party of Five and a Half. You're not even going to believe it. What's your favorite? We have a couple of them, but what is your favorite reality TV show? Like top two?
Well, there's Amazing Race.
Yep.
Which we talked to the Kumars a few weeks ago.
That's right. Uh-huh.
And Survivor.
Survivor's been around for so many years. How many seasons are they on?
Gosh, this is the 43rd season.
It's crazy.
And we're talking to someone from this season.
Right. This season. Once we heard about her and we watched her little part on Survivor where they say, why are you playing for $1 million? We were like, we actually have to talk to this person. And we reached out to her and she was so gracious to talk with us today.
She only lives like an hour away.
I know.
So cool.
Yeah. So you're going to love this conversation that we get to have. If you're curious about, like, do you get to take a toothbrush on Survivor? Do you get to actually eat more than coconut? Do you have to sleep on bamboo?
And where do you go to the bathroom?
These are
things we wanted to know.
And we find out all the details in
Yeah,
this interview, plus something that she's super passionate about, and we can't wait for you to hear about it. So please enjoy this interview we had with Nneka from this season's Survivor. Nneka from Survivor, thank you so much for joining us on Hardy Party of Five and a Half. We're so glad to have you on today. And we have a lot of Survivor questions, and then we want to get into something you're passionate about too. But first, tell us, how have you always wanted to be on Survivor? Were you like a big fan of the show? How did you go about that?
Hello, thank you for having me. It's fun to be here. So with Survivor, I have not always been a big fan. I knew the show has been on for a while. I worked a lot at the time and never really watched TV. But you know, when the lockdown happened and everyone was at home, my youngest kid, my daughter, started watching it. And somehow, you know how you're just passing by and you stand and stare, and then you sit down and then you get hooked, and then episode, season, and then you keep going. So no, I became a Survivor fan in 2020.
Okay.
And count myself really, really, really blessed to have been opportune to be on the season this year.
Yeah, there's probably been people that have been watching from day one that have not been picked to be on Survivor.
So what was your process to get on the show? You send in a text? Did you send in a video, or how did that work?
Yeah, so you know, during the lockdown, you know, it was in one of those, you know, getting all into it, in one of those episodes that I was like, I want to go on this show. But then, you know, they were not doing casting calls or accepting applications. So July 1st last year, actually, I, while in the, you know, watching Survivor, I was like, you know what, let me even see if casting calls are open. And they were. And I ran outside with my daughter and started recording this very spontaneous video about how excited. First of all, I was so excited casting calls were open, but it was just this like, oh my gosh, Survivor, you know, and you know, sent in the video with my application, and you know, I got a text some weeks later, which was just, you know, wow at the time.
So you sent in a spontaneous video? Oh my goodness.
That is so cool.
Yeah, because I mean, we really like The Amazing Race. We've talked about Survivor too, but I mean, we definitely, creatives, have think through this whole process, and we think things have to be done like
time on it.
So much time on it, and you're just like running circles around your yard, so excited, and you're picked.
Yeah, pretty much. It ended with me running down the street.
That is so hilarious.
How many kids do you have?
I have 3 children. Junie's the oldest. She's 21. She's a senior in college. My middle one, Tex, he is 19 and he's a sophomore. And my youngest is 16. She's a senior, a high school senior.
Oh, okay, cool.
So they thought it was pretty cool that mom made the show.
Man.
Yes, the older two didn't take me serious at first. The younger one, she's been my champion from day one. She was the one that got me into it, got us into watching the show. But no, just down the line when they saw the process unfolding, they thought, when you have older teenagers who think you're cool, you're cool legit. Your coolness is legit. Right. So just seeing they cheered me on. Seeing them be proud of what their mom is doing was, such a huge morale booster too. And then, getting to live out what you've been teaching them all these years as well about going for their own dreams and the things they believe in. It was, it was such a blessing.
Yeah, it's nice when your kid's eye roll turns into like a cheer. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
It's nice to mix that up a little bit. Yeah.
There's hope for all parents out there.
That's right. Just be Survivor and you can be cool again.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. So in getting ready for the show, did you learn any new skills, or how did you get ready when you knew you were going to go?
How long did you have?
Oh yeah, how long
before you heard that you were going?
Well, I started the application process in July. Okay. And it was at the beginning of this year that I knew I was going. But before getting that final, yes, you're going, I started preparing. My big thing was swimming. I did not know how to swim.
Oh, really? Wow.
Yeah. So I learned to swim to go on Survivor. Also at the beginning of the year, while I've always stayed active, I knew I wanted to be strong. You don't want to go there and be the liability, especially, after like a couple of, an episode that had happened in season 41, I think. So I did the 75 hard, I lost 20 pounds, learned to swim and learned to make fire, I had nothing on my outdoor resume, learned to make fire with friends but the swimming was the big thing. And that was like my husband's biggest fear. He's like, I just want to be able to sleep while you're out there. I know you're not going to die in the ocean. So
were you actually scared of swimming, or you just never learned to swim? Were you scared?
For him, both. If he decides to do something, he will go in 127%. Swimming has never quite made the list yet. So yes, he never learned to swim. For me, while I could, barely survive, I would not call myself a swimmer by any stretch of the word.
Yeah. Interesting. So what was the travel process like? I'm like a logical, detailed person, but did you meet the contestants at the airport and then you all like shuttled somewhere together? Where did you first meet up with everybody? And then what was it like getting on those boats and getting to the island?
We flew into LA and departed from LA to Fiji. And that's where, you kind of meet everybody. But when I say meet, it's more like see everybody, because you don't meet anybody until the game starts.
Okay.
No. Okay. So you get to see them, but not, you can't communicate or do anything, through the entire pregame period and then until the game starts. So really the first time you are talking to anybody is when we're making introductions once we get to camp.
Okay.
But the whole process, like you have so many oh my gosh moments, from the first oh my gosh, like I'm actually prepping for survival, oh my gosh, I made it on the show, oh my gosh, I'm packing, oh my gosh, like oh my goodness, I am headed to the airport to go be on the most awesome reality TV show in the world, and then actually land in LA. So there were so many oh my gosh moments up the way until we're about to get on the boats. We're getting our buffs and like, everyone's like, you can't just hold it in like, So, but then like you have like the ultimate, oh my gosh, like after through the shooting the marooning scene and we're approaching the island, you can see the flags flying and, the challenge y'all set up and like crew and stuff and Jeff out there. And, it's like the ultimate, holy cow, this is happening for real.
So is that the first time you saw Jeff?
In person, yes.
Yes. Yeah, okay. It was the first time you saw him in person. And then one other thing, did you get like a packing list? I mean, I guess I think like
Yeah, what can you, did
I
they tell
see
you what you can
people
bring?
using little
Yeah.
sticks to brush their teeth with. So I'm assuming toothbrush is not on the list, right?
No, there's nothing on the list. Like you pack to go on a trip, like, but your wardrobe is provided, like all of that is discussed ahead of time and
Okay.
planned out
Okay.
ahead of time.
Right.
Yeah. So yes, I packed a suitcase, but you kind of pack just like books to read before or after
Okay.
the show, like while you're traveling, um, you know, toiletries for when you're no longer on the show, because you never know.
Okay.
Yeah, but the things with the sticks on the island, like the bamboo, yes, no, we picked those. We literally had to, like, I got to do that for my tribe after like day 3. I'm like, we need to do something about our mouths, so I'm picking bamboo and stripping it and kind of showing everybody how to chew it. Because, I actually did that. I grew up in Nigeria. And when we go to my hometown, and when we say hometown, it's more like our country home, like our ancestral home. It wasn't really like I grew up in the city, but when we go to our hometown, back in the days when we were kids, my aunts in the village and my grandmom, they used the chewing sticks, so we actually got to pluck those and kind of showed everybody how to like chew on it and get a little brush thing going and use
Interesting.
it to, kind of brush your teeth. But you also find out that when you're not eating anything, because we were just living on coconuts, your mouth does not stink as much. it has more runway.
Yeah, that's funny.
So I have another question about that. I have contacts and I hate wearing my glasses to do any of the physical stuff. I could not wear glasses. I don't know how anybody does that. So can you bring contacts or is that out too? You just have to bring glasses if you have them. I'm just curious because that would be a no-go for me if I couldn't bring them.
Well, also walking around in underwear is a no-go.
Yeah, I'm not big on that either, but
on the underwear one, I was so sure that was like an absolute no-go.
Yeah.
But when you are so hot and like you're already filthy, look, at that point, like you just stop caring.
nobody cares anymore.
Yeah, by day 2 or 3, I was walking around in like in my underwear, and I am a very conservative person. But as far as contacts, I know there were people who had contacts, and when they had to like dive down deep, like they had the option to wear the goggles.
Oh yeah.
But I think those who had contacts didn't have like the dailies. They probably had the monthlies to be able to keep it in. My contacts, I can wear contacts longer than 6 hours because my eyes dry out a lot. So glasses made more sense. Now, so it was the glasses that I did.
Yeah.
Okay.
Interesting.
I've been wondering that for years.
You have.
Like it's been just in the back. Every time I watch an episode, I think, are they wearing contacts?
Yeah, because some of them do participate in glasses, and I've never put contacts in. Well, I did try once, but it was awful. So I would actually have to be wearing glasses all the time, which would
for some of the challenges, like I knew, even though I wear my glasses all the time, I took them off for some of the challenges.
Yeah.
The challenges are actually like larger than life in like real life. Like they're way more intimidating in real life than on TV. So walking through the challenge to see, okay, this is what we're going to do, it made sense to not have my glasses. And then I don't want to lose my glasses inside mud or have anything happen to it and now they stuck the rest of the time. Yes. So you can take it off and do the challenge and then get it back later.
Yeah.
Okay. So did you watch? Okay, we just watched the latest episode, and they were inside of a tunnel, a net tunnel, and they were just stuck in mud, and like 2 of the people couldn't finish. They were just stuck in the mud.
Noelle had to take her leg off.
Yeah. It's crazy.
It's so crazy.
Which it's wow. That challenge is everything all my nightmares are made of.
Yes. That looks awful. That looks
claustrophobia plus mud plus just
that's exactly what I told Scott.
So miserable.
That's probably the first challenge that I thought I could probably be claustrophobic in that twisty tube thing.
And kind of freak out a little.
I could probably see like freaking out a little bit.
Yeah. Okay.
I think the overall, like the feeling of the challenge is like you're already freaking out. Like you're like I see myself as a pretty calm person, but like you're approaching the first, like your immunity challenge, like you literally feel like you can barely stand, like just the terror is real. Like then the
Yeah.
adrenaline and everything, plus like you are running on no sleep and no food. So at that point you're like, I already reached the end of my rope. Let's just keep going.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's what we're gonna ask you. Come around that corner for the your first challenge, and Jeff's standing there. He's totally clean. He's eating well for the morning, obviously. So yeah, what are you thinking when you round that corner and you see that clearing and you know something's about to go down there?
Yeah, exactly. So the marooning challenge, I would say like there was like way more excitement. But the first immunity challenge, you're like, holy cow, this thing is real. If we don't win, someone's going home. So you're coming around, you don't know what to expect. And you see these structures in different colors, and it's terrifying,
Yeah.
but you're trying to look cool and be sure that you're not the only one terrified, but everyone's terrified, really.
Yeah.
And so by the time he's explaining, we're trying to listen, but when he says go, you stop thinking, you just
Right.
go,
Yeah.
and that's exactly what happens. Like the very first one where I don't do mud, like I don't do mud. Like I have a thing against mud. And when he said go, I just saw myself, boom, like mud covering half my face and you can't even wipe it. And you're just swimming through the mud as fast as you can, because like the other thought there is like, I don't want to sink. I don't know if you all had this whole like, what do you call it? Sinking sand thing when you were kids. Like,
yeah.
I spent a lot of my childhood trying to imagine what it would feel like to not get stuck. And that came back.
All the fears. All the fears.
Oh my goodness. But you're going, and that's just it. You're just going to the next thing.
It's hard for us to imagine just as spectators, because we watch the challenge and we think we totally would have done this, or we totally would have done it that way or this way.
But you're not, like you say, I don't think you're thinking at the time.
But we can't, as the spectator, we can't think hungry and exhausted, like, and how that must look just walking up to that. I mean, it just must be terrible.
Yeah, like I thought about hunger alone. I thought about, the no sleep alone. I thought about doing a challenge alone. I thought about, the social part. I never combined all of it together. And I don't know that we're actually, until we're out there, that we're actually able to really combine what that would look like all at once. But you find out.
Yeah, it comes on whether you want it to or not.
Yeah,
for sure.
So let's talk about the social aspect. You're starting a tribe with total strangers. So how does that feel like to just go into a camp and you don't know any of these people, and I'm sure you're trying to figure out, okay, what should I say, what should I do? So what was that like to try to start community with someone?
Yeah, I would say on the one hand, that's like it's the best and worst thing, right? If you think about it in real life, we don't get to choose our family, we just grow up knowing them, and you love them and you do life with them, and that's it. Yes, down the line we can choose our friends and all, but family you really can't. The difference here is you're knowing these people now. It's not like you grew up with them, but you don't have an input in choosing them. You know nothing about them, but you're like, hey, we're here and we're going to work together and build a society.
Wow. With coming from all different walks of life and everything from different theologies to political views to, I mean,
absolutely.
that is crazy. Yeah. Do you talk much in detail? I mean, the talking that we see, is there more talking that goes on that's obviously not where you even dig a little deeper, or they try to get most of that juice on screen?
Oh no, I mean, you're thinking of recording going on 247, multiplied by however many days, and what you see on screen is probably like 1% of the content, so there is a lot, that is shared. When I used to, think that, you watch contestants saying, oh, they care about this people. I'll give you a straight instance, like Marianne getting super emotional whenever what's his name had to go on day 3, the guy that was pulled out of the show. Was it Dave? I don't remember his name. And I'm like, why is she so emotional? Like, they just got here. But it's you think of like 24 hours times 3 days of uninterrupted time with these people. Like, when you think of your best friend, how much time do you really spend with your best friend? Yes, we get together for coffee or lunch, an hour or two a week, but you are with these people, 1 week is 168 hours, like of just them. It is a lot of time to sit and talk and ask questions and deep dive and, sleep, cry, all of it. So there's so much that's not shown.
Yeah.
So when you build those relationships, they're real.
Mm-hmm.
And, they do go on after the show.
Yeah. Do you still have relationships now with some of them?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I'm so grateful for the people that I got to meet there and that I wouldn't have met, like you said, people with different backgrounds, theologies, views, all the works, but we got put together and we made the best of it. So yes, it's such a blessing.
Yeah. It's probably some very sweet friendships and something, when you share something like that with someone, with a group of people, that can't be recreated ever again. Like that will never ever happen again. And so there is like an intimacy there that you wouldn't have had otherwise with that group of people. So that's really cool.
Exactly. And there's that common shared experience that you don't have with anyone else, like preparing to go on the show, you can't talk about it. So there's not really anybody you can talk to it about. And then you come out, the whole period before the show airs, you can't talk about it. Well, only these people who were there with you, because they completely understand what you're going through. So there's such a kinship there, that you don't get with anyone else.
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, I have a question that I know you're gonna love.
What's that?
Because you love your sleep.
I do love my sleep.
So you mentioned sleep crying there. So do you like a hard bed, a soft bed? Did it even matter? So how did you sleep on the show? Where did you sleep and how did you sleep? Or did you?
Yeah, I'm kind of extra. I like the soft life. Okay.
You like the soft too, yeah.
And then for somebody who, like I said, there was no outdoor resume. The very first night, like being on Survivor was a dream come true. But the very first night was an absolute bar none worst night of my life.
Really?
Laying there was no sleep at all. We're laying on bamboo that was so uneven and pokey. And our shelter had collapsed like just before nightfall. Like, the sun sets at like 6:15, and then it gets dark like almost immediately. So I'm in the jungle. We barely had a shelter that I was so sure was going to fall in the middle of the night and crack my skull. And then I can't even see my hands in front of my face. And I needed to pee.
Oh my gosh.
And I'm laying on this thing, like on the bamboo. I had to like move every 5 minutes, like turning myself like a rotisserie chicken because like everywhere hurt. So it was the longest night of my life. I heard stuff crawling. I don't do rodents. I don't do bugs.
Oh my gosh.
So I'm there and I'm like, Lord, let morning just come. Like,
Yeah.
So you have like the sun rises about 6. We think we really never know what time it is, but you kind of guess.
Yeah.
But finally the sun rises. I remember just stumbling out of the shelter. Like no one else on my tribe knew this, but I ran to the beach. Like I just bawled and I was just praying like, holy Lord, this was not a good idea. Like, why did you answer this prayer? Like, what am I doing here? I'm completely out of my element. That was so I'm just like having this big cry. And but it was like after the crying, I felt like, finally like sitting quietly. And I felt like I heard the Lord say that, this is your answered prayer.
Yeah.
That sometimes in the midst of our dream come true and answered prayer, we can have our lowest moments, but it was like, look at all the firsts that you're having, like your first time sleeping on bamboo, your first time sleeping outside, your first time, doing a survival challenge. Like, so it was all of these first time opening up a coconut, cutting up bamboo. So like, I'm remembering all the firsts and there was such a shift in my perspective to say, okay, what new first am I going to experience today? And that was what happened. Like it became my thing. Like, okay, what are the new firsts for today?
Yeah, that's a great perspective to have when you're a rotisserie chicken all night long.
So now you took me somewhere else because you mentioned bathroom. Do you have to just find somewhere to go? Do they have a space for you? How does that? We're getting to the details now.
Yeah.
So
you just go in the ocean.
Really?
I'm good.
So let me give you this backstory, right? So the first morning we're heading out before the marooning challenge, like we're getting ready to go on the boats, and I needed to use the restroom, but I'm like, I'm not gonna go back again, So I was like, I'll do it later. And we get on the boats, and later we're transferred to the rafts. And, the lady on one of the crew people was like, if you need the restroom, to use the restroom, let me know. I was like, oh yeah, me, sure. And she's like, so she takes me to the back of the raft, and I'm looking at her like, we're in the middle of the ocean. She's like, you hold here, you hold here. And I'm like,
Oh my gosh.
This is the bathroom.
I literally held it through everything, our challenge, until we get to our camp in the afternoon. I felt so sorry for my bladder. But no, there are no bathroom facilities. You have the option of digging a hole in the ground or going in the ocean. It's called an aqueduct.
Oh my goodness. But also they're not eating a lot. So there's that.
That's true.
And that's a good thing. Like, you're not eating a lot, so you don't have to. But like, it did take me a few days, to even muster up courage, to even think of it. I'm like, I'm not even dealing with that.
Yeah.
That's out of mind. Yeah.
Yeah, out of mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Absolutely.
I guess in a desperate situation I could go in the ocean, but I've never been able to do that.
I could go in the ocean.
Well, yeah, I know you can.
I could go in the ocean. If I was cranky from the whole sleep situation, I'd be like,
you don't
whatever.
care anymore. Yeah. Okay. So you mentioned first, so your team loses and you have to go to tribal. What is that first tribal like? What's tribal council like?
Y'all, like, if you're looking at this, looking at it from just as a spectator, it's just the setup is wild. It's beautiful, like the attention to detail. And then I remember sitting there at tribal council and feeling like I was having an out of body experience. I felt like I was watching myself on the screen. It was so weird. And, but it was also one of the first. I'm like, oh my goodness, first tribal council. I'm actually sitting here at tribal council. But it's just the setup of the whole set was, like, I'm looking at the mats on the floor, the raffia mats on the floor. The last time I saw that, I probably was 8 years old, and it was in my grandmother's house.
Oh wow.
Actually, home that doesn't exist anymore. And I'm looking at that and having like this whole nostalgic stuff going on. So it was a whole lot of things, but it was amazing, sitting there and having those conversations. Of course, we get a fraction of that is actually what's aired. The whole process is longer, but it was amazing.
Yeah, when we watch tribal and people speak up without being asked a question, we're like, no, you shouldn't be talking. Like, just be quiet. Unless you're asked a specific question, answer the question, move on.
Move on, exactly.
You get to run in your mouth and you don't even know what you're saying. You're probably so delusional and tired.
Target.
You suddenly become the target, and you didn't
exactly.
Yeah. So we've seen from past shows that they've had to like refilm, like when you're walking to tribal and you're carrying your torches, and like they wanted you to walk this way, and then they'd redo it and have them walk this way. Did you have to have like multiple takes of things?
Yeah. So I would say that probably took, I don't know, maybe 30 minutes. I don't know, but it was a whole process, or maybe longer. I don't remember, but walking in sand, holding those torches that are pretty heavy, and then you're carrying your bag, so you're carrying everything, so it's a lot of weight, and you're staying in this line. I remember even doing it, and like Noelle, she has the prosthetic leg, and it's hard to work in sand with, to walk in the sand with that. And this is saying like your feet is dipping into the sand, way past your ankles with each step. It can be
it's a workout.
Yeah, it can be a little stressful. A workout, yeah. And then you're already like tired, you're dreading going to tribal. Like, I would say those are some of my least favorite things.
Really? Yeah, I bet so. So were there any other behind the scene moments that you can think of that would be like important to share or cool?
None that I can think of off the top of my head right now.
Yeah. Are you watching the show as it airs now?
Oh, absolutely. I'm watching. It's, so I was not quite sure. I did not know what it would feel like watching yourself on TV.
Okay.
It's really, really hard to
watch
yourself, not knowing what will be shown. Like you're getting to see it at the same time as, millions of people.
Oh, wow.
So yes, I remember like the very first episode. Yes, there was a lot of excitement, but I felt like I was going to go throw up, and then you're watching it, and you're reliving it all over again, you know.
Wow.
I had a premiere party, and when we won the marooning challenge, we all jumped and cheered, and they were looking at me like jumping and cheering too. They were like, well, you were there, you knew. I'm like, so
Like it's not you anymore. It's a
Yeah.
character on the show. Yeah.
That's so crazy.
exactly. And then watching Mariah get voted out, you know, I'm like feeling genuinely sad, you know,
Yeah.
even though I know, you know, and know her as a person, love her. She has an amazing personality, an amazing human being overall. You know, so you have all these emotions that I never really took into account
Right.
prior to going on the show. That, you know, by the time I was voted off, it was such a relief, you know.
Third person voted out of Survivor 43. Nneka, that's 3, that's enough. Need to bring me a torch.
I love you.
Love you, girl. Nneka, the tribe has spoken. Time for you to go.
Bye, guys.
And like, I'm like, let me have my Wednesdays back.
That's awesome.
So yeah, that moment when you're snuffing it out, your flame out, and Jeff's like saying you're out of here. So for you, it was relief then. Like, okay, good. Whew.
No, at that point, I wasn't thinking that. And I, you know, I wanted to watch that to see, and I was surprised that I was smiling, and even my exit interview, I was thankful for what I said, because I remember being in some kind of daze, like, okay, is this actually unreal? Is this happening? Like when you walk off the set after your torch's been snuffed, and you're just going down this whole walkway, it's surreal. Like, okay, what am I doing? You know, like there's just still that whole like not fully aware, not being fully there. You know, so you know, watching my own episode, I'm like, I wonder what I said at my exit interview.
Oh,
You know,
interesting.
because I really didn't have much recollection of it. So the relief was from sitting here, being home, and watching it on screen.
Right.
So how long after you're voted out did they do your little exit interview? Do they give you a minute, or is it just like right then?
I mean, you kind of go and wait for them to set up. Yeah, you do have a few minutes.
Okay, just a few minutes.
Yeah.
And then do you at some point realize you're heading to food in an actual bed? At some point you have this realization?
Yeah, well, you get on a boat to get to Ponderosa, and you get, you know, they were like, hey, you want to place an order for dinner? I remember just placing whatever, you know, and I got this bag of snacks and everything. But getting to Ponderosa, and you know, I was welcomed by Mariah and Justine and the rest of the crew, and sat down to eat, and I was staring at my food, and the first thought in my head was, why is it hot? And like, and I'm like, and the other thought was, I only eat coconuts, like, why is it hot?
Oh my goodness, wow.
So I could barely eat 2 bites. Like, I probably had a couple of bites, and it took me a couple of days. It was probably on day 3. I'll tell you what did it. It was chicken wings. But it was on day 3 before I was finally able to eat.
Yeah. Well, that was probably good for you too, because if you would have just eaten, like whenever they have those feasts, I'm like, oh, they're gonna feel so
I like you
terrible.
get sick eating all that food.
So you're probably
and people are different. There were people who came off the boat and like had 3 things going and chowed everything down. I don't know. It was just, people are different, you know. And for me, it didn't sink in. You know, I remember going in, you know, I got into my room and walked past the mirror, and I was like, what? Like, I was like the same color as my hair. You know, like I was so dark.
Wow.
And I just like, I can't deal with this right now. And I went and took a shower. It was the following morning when I woke up, and I'm like, I'm on a bed. That's when it sunk in that I really was voted off.
Wow.
And that's when I will say like I was like really, really sad.
That's when you were sad. Okay. Yeah.
Well, it's funny how your mindset changes just in that little time because it seems like you're like, I live on an island now. So why am I in this hotel or why am I on the Ponderosa now?
Yeah.
And I live on an island in Coconut, you know.
Yeah, and it's only 7 days,
Yeah.
but it takes up so much real estate
Yeah.
in your psyche that it's a minute. You know, the whole experience does take up real estate in your head, but like to think that you're only on the island for 7 days, you know, and then you come off and it's taking you so much time, or even walking around and there are no cameras and microphones following me. I'm like, where are y'all? Like, I got stuff to say.
Oh goodness.
That's hilarious.
That's awesome.
It seems like for us, one of the hard things would be like the whole premise of Survivor, Outwit, Outlast, Outplay, or Outplay, Outlast. It like there's an element of lying that goes into Survivor. And how did you like that would be, I think that would be probably something hard for us, even though there's got to be an element of that to play the game. So how'd you balance that?
So my very first thing going on Survival was that I was going to go on the show and not tell a lie. And that was how the whole thing started. And you know, my first word identify, if you ask me to introduce myself, I'll tell you I'm a daughter of God, you know, like I couldn't reconcile both.
Yeah.
So yes, even though it started that way, and I would say like just the Lord worked with my mind just through the whole process on what it will be like. But getting on the show, you know, I always was like, I'm past that, you know, like how much is a lie worth? But then I also believe that the game could be played without telling a lie. Now, this is a game that's designed to outwit, outlast, outplay. Mm-hmm. Now, granted, you know, most times when you say outwit, it's becomes about lying. But I really do believe that outwitting is more about showing superior wisdom. Mm-hmm. You know, so that was my thing going in. But really, the game is designed for you to lie and backstab and cheat. Now, if you ask me, is it possible to play and win Survivor without telling a lie? I'll tell you, no, I don't think it's possible. Okay. I wish I could disprove that. But that being said, for me as a personal experience, like, you know, going in and thinking like, oh yes, lying is not a problem. I was shocked at like the crisis that went on in here, you know, while the show started. Now, the first 5 minutes of the show, like we had done the first reward challenge at the marooning challenge, and we get to our camp and everyone's introducing each other, you know. Noel's 25, Justine's 29, Jess is 30, Cody's 35, Dwight's 21. My daughter was going to be 21 in a little bit. And at that point, I had my first crisis. I was like, girl, you can flip your number. You can pull off 34.
Oh, yes.
I was like, you can pull off 34. And then it was just that shock, like, oh my goodness, the game has barely started and I'm here being tempted to lie. Yeah. So of course, when I told him I was 43, everybody was like, oh my goodness, we couldn't have thought so. We thought you were like 30 or whatever, you know, but it's those moments like that, you know, you think of, you've had a conversation with somebody, you know, and then you're like, hey, can I go make a move for a different thing? And then at that point, you know, you're having conversations in your mind, like that would be betrayal. I'm like, well, betrayal, I said I wasn't going to lie. Did I say I wouldn't betray? But then you start redefining what does betrayal mean? Well, you gave your word and you intentionally broke it. That's betrayal and that is lying. So it's all these moments, you know. So while I will say yes, I did not have to tell a lie on the show. Like it's not a badge I particularly care about to wear, but it is really, really hard. Yeah. Like, because it's not just about conversations you have with people. It's, you know, you know, in the basic things, in things that don't matter, you know, you will be tempted, you know, and I personally don't think it's possible to win, because if it was left to you alone, you can make that decision, but you're working with other people who don't operate like you do. They don't care for that. They're there to win whatever, and regardless of what it takes. And stretching the truth is lying, you know, if we're going to be honest. So
do you think that do you think that conviction that you had was Holy Spirit? Like that's And
Oh,
maybe
absolutely.
other people maybe didn't necessarily have those type of convictions you were having with lying.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And it's like, hey, at what point, like, what door will we let open? I can excuse one teeny tiny white one, and then it's going to be easier to, keep opening that door. So it's either you open it or you don't.
Yes.
So it was all of those things, and then just still choosing to say, okay, Lord, what? I'll trust whatever you say, and go with it, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
Because you can see in that 7 days how your mindset can change. And if you're letting all that in, okay, what am I going to have to deal with after the show that I've kind of I've changed my behavior for the show. Now, how do I deal with that when I get home?
Yeah.
Exactly. I wanted to be able to still like myself. I wanted to, you think of it like, from an accountability standpoint is one thing, but also like for those that you shepherd, your children, others, is it okay? Is $1 million okay for the lies? Like, will I tell my kids, like, don't lie, but, so it wasn't just, could I have said, hey, I need an excuse to go lie on the show because that's what it's about? Yeah, I could have said that. But really, for me, going on the show was like, hey, who do I represent? I still wanted to go there and know that I'm partnering with the Lord and not going on my own.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
There was one little snippet that they interviewed you and asked you, like, why are you playing this game? Why are you playing for $1 million? And it was because of that we said, we've got to contact her and see if she'll be on our show. And so that was because you're involved in a Waymaker Ministries missions. And it was a big reason as to why you're on the show. So we want to know all about that.
Okay. So Waymakers was started by a friend from college. While we were not friends in college at the time, I got to know him afterwards. So I went to college in Nigeria. And when you graduate, you have 1 year of it's called the National Youth Service Corps. You serve the nation, you're paid peanuts. But they can send you to whatever part of the country to go serve and work. So he was sent to this remote village in the northeastern part of Nigeria. And he fell in love with the people there. So, this friend, his name is Joshua. Joshua, got to know the Lord in college and was all in, from day one. And when he went there, stopped being about, he never left after his 1 year of youth service and stayed there and eventually started, the Way Missions Group, like spreading the gospel out there. And, when you spread the gospel, these people were like traditional, like pagans, or Muslims, and usually for the ones who were Muslims, like they can't be a part of their family if they no longer were part of the religion. So, providing a camp where people could come to, became a part of the whole package. And it was like from the camp, and that's how like the school also started. So yes, and the ministry grew, part of the staffing were other youth service people who were sent there, but just the Lord just raised up men to go work there. Yes, while Nigeria is a developing country, like you don't easily find people who want, like there's a lot of religion in the country, churches and all of that, but like prosperity gospel is big. You don't find a lot of people who really want to go into the heartlands to live on nothing and really like do the real hard mission work. So anyway, I got to know him back in I started partnering with the ministry back in 2014, 2013. And I think when I did my interview on the show, I probably got a couple of dates wrong. I was hungry, y'all. Excuse me. And, just my heart just went out to what they were doing. Missions has always been something that was near and dear to me. But to see someone who, like I knew, doing this big time. So yes, I was all in from day one and kind of just went with whatever the Lord said. I was, so Joshua was murdered by the local Boko Haram, I think back in 2016 or 2017. But I thought at that point, I remember praying that night, like, Lord, like, why? How can this happen? There's not a lot of a lot of people like him, like, you know, you have those moments but, you know, they kept going. God kept sending people, the ministry kept going. Had about 300 children, school was going, camp was going. And in the midst of them having nothing, they will still go out and do missions in these villages and still give out of the nothing that, you know, when I ask about like, okay, tell me what the staff is surviving on, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
It's like $30 a month,
Oh,
you know,
wow.
and that's after the children have been fed, you know, but these are people who really have the heart. So you can't complain, like sitting here, like it's just inspiring. Like you want to do all that you can. Anyway, in 2019, the whole camp was attacked by Boko Haram and everything was burned down. And I would say those were one of my hardest times, you know, like we just questioning. And unfortunately, I guess it's part of our growth and our walk in the Lord, but just questioning like, Lord, what is going on here? For me, like it was a big faith thing, you know, like, you know, I was at that point, like, you know, I felt like Lord was like, hey, there was a need for a dining hall / cafeteria because the kids used to eat outside in the dirt. So trusting the God for provision, he provided, but starting this whole building that took literally everything, you know, and then everything got burned down. I know part of it was me saying, seriously, but the other part of it was like, Lord, how much can these people take?
Yeah.
But seeing their hearts like come through, seeing them praising in the midst of it, you know, Ngozi, who's Joshua's wife, like saying every child is accounted for and we can only just offer praise and just worship. Like they stirred me in ways that never been stirred before. And, you know, they moved closer to Jalingo, which is the capital city. They're not in the city, but just not so remote. Because where they were, you can't, most times it's even hard to get to by cars. So there's a new camp and like everything is being built from scratch and God continues to provide. So it just in my heart is to be able to, like, when I was like, I could win $1 million. Oh my goodness, like it will go so far.
Yeah.
So far, you know. And that was, yeah. But then I'm like, okay, we can't lie, you know.
Well, it makes me think my son and I went to Kenya 5 or 6 years ago.
Something like that.
Yeah. And we were in the Rift Valley and we actually we taught baseball for like 5 or 6 days. There was an orphanage we went to, and then when you were talking about the camp and all that, it was a community that had been displaced during one of the elections. So they were just in the Rift Valley and just started a community there. So we went in and taught them baseball for the day. And I just think when you're talking about people that are really serving, Pastor John was there, and it's just amazing. He had nothing either. Like he was just giving all he had. And it was just so cool to see him working with these kids. I think we worked with like 300 kids that week. And just to see the people that are there and are serving.
Yeah.
And it's just inspiring. So
yeah.
So
and
cool.
You're inspiring, Nneka.
Yes, you are.
We love your story. We couldn't wait to talk to you because what a cool thing that you're a part of. And I mean, obviously being on Survivor was a very cool thing, but we love your heart and your heart for ministry and your heart for the Lord. And we just thank you for taking time to share that with Hardie Party 5.5 today.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. This has been fun.
I love that girl.
I sure do too.
She had so many cool things to share and things that like I was super interested in. So do you think that now, giving some background, you could be on Survivor?
I don't think I could.
Why?
Well, I'm kind of with her on the lying part. That would be hard for me. You can kind of, in your mind, you can say it's gamemanship, but I don't know if I could totally go there.
I could do it.
And I still, you are ready to lie. Give me a reason to lie. And really, honestly, being half naked around everybody, I still don't know if I can do that. I don't know. I think once you're there, you don't think about it. But just watching the show, I'm like, that's a little cringy that I'm in my BVDs. Is that what they're called?
I think so.
Yeah. And I don't know if I could.
I know she said you get hot and you don't even think about it. I can't imagine a world where I don't think about being in my underwear in front of
national TV.
National TV.
Yeah.
I just can't. I can't think that would be too far from my mind.
So what about the eating? Could you just eat coconuts and rice?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd find some bugs to eat too, probably. I'd just roast them up.
Really?
Probably.
Okay. Well, you gotta learn, like she did, you gotta learn how to make fire.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
Yeah. What skill would you have to learn to go on Survivor?
I don't know. I can swim. I'd have to learn how to make fire. I feel like I could do it. The only way I do it now is when I turn on the burner and put a toothpick on it, or if I've got the little thing, you know, the little.
Wait. You put a toothpick on the burner in the kitchen?
Yeah, I've done that before.
Well, we don't have a little clicky thing that just lights a
Well,
fire?
when I can't find it, I just use
Okay.
I get a toothpick and rub it on the hot.
That doesn't sound safe.
It's probably not.
You know you're in a house and not on an island, right?
Right. And that reminds me, I've gotten in trouble with Drew before, our oldest.
Mm-hmm. He's Captain
Because
Safety.
He is. They call him Mr. OSHA at work.
Mm-hmm.
Well, in a toaster, you know, you'll have bread in there.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe you're doing a Pop-Tart or something, you get stuck. Well, from the time I was yay big, little Scooter, tiny Scooter, I've always, whatever's available, I'll stick in that toaster and get it out. So there was one day that I grabbed a fork, a metal fork, and I think it was probably a bagel or something I was trying to get out. And Drew comes around the corner, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "I'm getting my bagel out." And he's like, "That's still plugged in." And I'm like, "I've been doing this since before you were born."
Well, you just have to know, like, I wouldn't use a fork, actually. I've used a knife, but you just have to have good aim. You just slide it into the item you're trying to get out, and you slide the item out with it. You're not like you're not like digging around in there like
Right,
cleaning
yeah.
out a cavity. I mean,
You're
it's
not
like
jamming it into the circuit.
no, it's a delicate process.
It's like playing Operation as a kid.
Only people in the
You just
70s
can't-
have mastered this experience.
You can't hit those sides because you don't want to hear the buzzer.
Right.
And you don't want to get electrocuted.
Operation.
It's not like I wanted to get electrocuted.
Anyways, we're off topic. Okay, so I don't know what I would have to learn. Well, obviously just basic physical stamina, I think I would have to learn.
Just work on
and
that.
strength. Like when they're climbing up like steep walls, I would not want to have 6 people, 3 pulling me from the top and 4 pushing me
Others
from the
pushing
bottom.
you.
Yeah, that would make me embarrassed. So I would have to work on some probably athleticism. But I think you and I both are pretty good at like the mindset. Like we could both be like, this is what we're doing today and this is what we have to do.
And just not thinking and just doing it. I think I'd be pretty good at that.
Yeah.
But then again, I haven't been on an island with strangers.
Yeah, and
not
I
eating.
think what's interesting about what she said is like you think it through on no food, and then you might think it through on no sleep, and then you think it through on you're away from your family, but you don't put all those things together.
Yeah.
It's impossible to actually think about how you would actually be. You can't do that. Like
To
there's just no
experience
way.
it, yeah.
Yeah.
It's so easy watching to go, "Oh, why are you doing that?"
Exactly.
Well,
Exactly.
you're not experiencing it like they do.
Yes. Yeah.
And
So-
we've learned that on our videos, if we're going to try out for Survivor or Amazing Race, it's got to be more off the cuff. The 2 groups we've talked to,
off the cuff.
yep, the Kumars and
NNEKA.
NEKA,
Yeah. Off the
we've
cuff.
just totally off the cuff, go outside and do it.
Yep.
So that's
Sounds
what we
like we
gotta
need to
do.
go get ready for our off the cuff interviews.
I know, but we can't get ready.
The get ready part's the wrong part.
Yeah.
Okay.
We have to be not ready.
Okay.
So we can't do it right now because we're thinking about it.
I'll catch you off guard.
It's very
sometime.
complicated.
I'll catch you off guard sometime when my hair and makeup's done.
Okay, good.
All right. We hope you enjoyed this interview with NEKA. She's such a cool person, and go check out her ministry. We're so inspired by it, inspired by her. We just can't thank her enough for taking time to be on with us today. So we hope you enjoyed it too. Hardie Party 5 and a half, over and out.
We'll see you next time.